Yo, what is going on, guys? Hope it's having a fantastic day today. So I want to go over some news for the Philadelphia Eagles. A few things I definitely want to talk about here regarding, obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles in a contract that is not signed yet. Kind of going through what Nick Sirianni did say about Jalen Hurts even after he got paid and how they're going to use him this year. How different is it going to be? And a little bit of talk on the Super Bowl that we just played not too long ago, and news has been kind of circulating with Brandon Graham like the past couple weeks on what he said about the whole entire thing, and I kind of want to go over that and some unusual things that were said and things that were displayed as well because of it. So yeah, let's get straight into all the news.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope it's on a fantastic day. Hope everyone is enjoying their 4th of July weekend. Hope you're enjoying yourselves with your families and all that great stuff. Now, I want to go over a few things here I think that are really important. I think the number one thing I want to go over is Kelee Ringo not signing his deal. Now, I don't know why this would be a hard thing to do. He's a 7th-round pick. How hard can this contract, why isn't this thing getting done? It might not matter, but it's not like you're trying to sign your 1st-round pick or your 2nd-round pick. You're trying to sign your 7th-round pick of the draft, and it just seems like as of right now, I don't know. Is there an issue? Is there something going on? Is he asking for a little bit more money? I don't know. I mean, it's probably nothing, or maybe he is signed and it just hasn't been officially reported yet. So there could be a few things there that we don't know of as of right now, but I would just give it a little bit of time. I wouldn't probably make a big deal out of this, but kind of weird that it just hasn't happened yet. And I had some people in the comment sections to my videos say, well, Kelee Ringo hasn't been signed yet, what's going on? And I was kind of blanking out for a minute, yeah, you know what, why isn't he signed yet? So I thought it was kind of weird on why this hasn't happened, and I guess hopefully we'll find out sooner or later what happens. But yeah, it was just kind of a weird thing on why he's not signed. The only draft pick that hasn't signed his official contract is Kelee Ringo. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean he's sitting out for anything or training camp. I mean, it's probably going to get done, or like I said, it's probably already done. It just hasn't been officially released. So I would just wait on it. I wouldn't make a big deal. Just want to know from you guys what you guys think about this, why he hasn't signed a pretty easy contract. I mean, you can't really dispute for much money at a pick like that in that round. So wouldn't make a big deal out of that. Next on my list, I want to go over what Nick Sirianni's comments, even after when Jalen Hurts got paid, how important it is that I think this is a coach that's aggressive. This is a coach that's very, that's going to stick with what works. And I think that's a great thing, especially with your quarterback. You don't want to change too much of how your quarterback's play is. What is your quarterback's strengths? What are his weaknesses? Okay, and what you're building on top of last year in 2022, which was a fantastic year for Jalen Hurts. Now, this was really after he got paid, and somebody, one of the beat writers did ask Nick, really, since Jalen Hurts is getting paid now, are you going to run him a lot less? And Nick's like, no, I mean, he's getting paid, and that's what he's getting paid to do. So I feel like, I kind of thought, maybe with this really good running back core behind Jalen Hurts, that maybe they wouldn't run as many QB sneaks. I think it was 38 for 45 or something like that. Kind of a crazy number. And obviously teams try to get the league to, dismiss having QB sneaks like that and pushing. It really wasn't just the QB sneaks. It was really helping the quarterback get pushed over the line. And it was denied. So the Eagles are probably going to be doing that a lot of times this year. It sounds like they're going to be doing a lot of the same things they have been doing. And I'm not surprised over it. I feel like, number one thing you can't do is handicap your quarterback. Russell Wilson was never handicapped. Mobile quarterbacks just should never get handicapped. Yes, you're risking more injury, but it's really up to the quarterback too. I felt like last year from 21 to 22, I think in 22, too. I think with Hurts, I think he protected himself a lot better. There's certain moments where you really shouldn't protect yourself. There's certain moments where if it's a really important game and it's down to the wire, you need those extra yards, you go ahead and do that. If your quarterback gets hit too many times and your offensive coordinator is using this run game with Jalen Hurts too much, which I thought obviously in that Bears game last year, which he was taking way too many hits, like big hits, not even small hits. They were just really big hits. And then finally that last one on that shoulder injury happened. And, then you're missing your quarterback for a good amount of time. Now, I mean, it wasn't out for a long time, but definitely took some time off and had to put another quarterback to win, first seed, which could have been done a lot earlier if things like that don't happen. So with the running backs in this room, I thought they would take more pressure off him, but it just seems like Nick is going to stay aggressive. Brian Johnson, as a new offensive coordinator for this team, is going to stay very aggressive here. You don't want to do that to Jalen Hurts and make him a pure pocket guy, because he could do so much more. When he extends plays with his legs, anything could happen. And we've seen it a million times the past couple seasons. Even last year was just fantastic. Kind of reminded me when Carson Wentz in 2020, I felt like they want to put him in an RPO system and not be too mobile. They told him to pack on some weight. And it kind of really just screwed him up. Mentally, he was already done, but, so we found out later how mentally done he was. But when you do that to your quarterback, taking away their big strength, whether it's extending plays or running with the ball in your hands, I mean, you're gonna torment this offense. This offense does not go as far as you want it to go because your quarterback isn't allowed to do the things that he's good at most with, which is extending plays with his legs and using, even running a quarterback option or something like that, which Hurts is very good at doing that. And most teams can't defend this, so I like that, the money doesn't change anything. I like that Nick was like, well, this is what he's getting paid to do, so we're going to keep doing it. As long as Jalen Hurts slides and protects himself, which I thought last year he was doing that a lot, which was great. Don't take the unnecessary hit just to get a few extra yards. It makes no sense unless you're in red zone and you want to just jump over the pile. That's fine, but definitely it's definitely something to really cherish, man, that they're not taking it easy with Hurts. They're not, just even with running backs and with this offensive line, they're not going to run him less. They're going to have him pass. No, they're going to unleash him even more going into 2023 this season. And I'm very happy about that. So those comments I thought were really good. And it really showed that, that's the issue with a lot of teams now. They make way too many changes for quarterbacks. And look, quarterbacks always have changes every year. Quarterback coaches change every year, but the quarterback should never change. You know what I mean? The way you call plays change sometimes, but don't change it drastically where it takes away the biggest strengths away from your quarterback. And that's, I think, one of the most important things you shouldn't do. So very happy for that, and can't wait to see Jalen Hurts run with the ball in his hands, using his legs, and making big plays, whether it's himself or passing the ball to one of our receivers, tight ends, or even some of these running backs too. So the more the merrier, because now it's like, now you have these running backs in the building. If you take the run game away from Hurts, then you really have to, you're only limited to doing so much. And I think Brian Johnson is really going to open this playbook far more than what Shane Steichen did. And yes, I have my gripes on Shane Steichen, but nothing compared. Like, I thought he did pretty well as an offensive coordinator. It was really our defense that was a big problem last year, as we were seeing signs every single week of what was to come. And finally, it did bite us in the ass in the end of the season. So I think, you got to take notes on that. And I think, like I said, I think that this playbook is going to expand. I think a lot of guys are going to get touches. I feel like Hurts is going to, they're going to dial up some things, which is going to help, Hurts, with his mobility. You want to take advantage of that because most teams aren't prepared. The more weapons you have at receiver, tight end, running backs, and your offensive line is good, and you're a mobile quarterback in a system like this, even Russell Wilson with Seattle really never built a great offensive line for him over the years. I mean, they felt like they didn't have to do that because Russell Wilson could outmaneuver everybody. But why put more pressure on your quarterback to do that and risk more injury the more hits that a mobile quarterback does take? So I thought that made a lot of of sense, and I really did like how that was said by Nick. It makes sense. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, Brandon Graham. Now, I'm all done with the gripes on the Super Bowl that we did lose, but I kind of want to go over some things because Brandon Graham did say some things. Really, the past couple weeks, things have been circulating about Brandon Graham kind of opening his mouth. At least all of our players haven't been complaining about things. At least we know what team complains about a lot of things. But with the Philadelphia Eagles, Brandon Graham was on WIP and said some things about the Super Bowl in general and had something to say. He says, I'm telling you, O-line boy, they got blessed. I'll say that. When we looked at film, there was a couple of times where if Sweaty don't slip, boy, strip sack, especially that first drive, where he threw it across the middle to Travis Kelce. He was right there, man. He slipped. We could not believe it. Then says, when we looked at the film, when I finally looked at it, I'm like, man, oh man, we're going to get back on it and get back. It's coming back. That's coming back. But like I said, credit to Kansas City. It's all love. Them boys, they played too. Now, Brandon Graham did talk about the Super Bowl and how Patrick Mahomes was hurt before the half, which I thought it was I thought he was faking it. I didn't think it was real because when he got back in the second half, he looked like he wasn't even hurt anymore. He looked so hurt. He couldn't even walk. That's how bad it was. And I felt like they were just trying to get the Eagles off balance. And I don't know. It just didn't work, obviously. The one gripe I'll have about the Super Bowl, look, the Jalen Hurts fumble, the Eagles, the scoop and score, the Eagles were still up by 10 points at half. There was no excuse to lose that game. Okay. It's over. It's done. The Eagles lost, but obviously I'm just covering this. So I've only watched the Super Bowl probably 2 other times, which it was very hard to watch. Eagles were still up by 10 at the half. But like I said, besides the defense and just Jonathan Gannon getting out-coached the whole second half and really not getting the ball back to our quarterback, and obviously that horrible penalty at the end, not letting these guys play, I think what was kind of nuts even about this is the one gripe that I do have here is the field was really slippery. I've never seen that in my life watching football. I mean, even if we won that game, I'd still talk about it because that field was just the worst. Defensive ends, defensive tackles, especially defensive ends, they can't bend around the edge because every time they did, they slipped. Once you slip, you're out of the play. Our defensive line couldn't sack Mahomes one time because they just couldn't get... Look, I know Kansas City dealt with the same things, but they played better because of it. We were in the same situation, so I can't complain about that. But it was an eye-opener. It was BS. By the end of the third quarter, I had a feeling we were going to lose in the Super Bowl because for that reason alone, 70 sacks for the season for your defense. Historically, it was great, highest in franchise history in 1 year, and you can't even get to Mahomes at all. So I felt like there was just so many weird stuff going on because of that. And then all this news came out about the groundskeeper, the 94-year-old groundskeeper that watered the field. He watered the grass before rolling it out, and they never dried the grass, so the grass was heavily wet. Okay, it was just, I've never heard of shit like this in my life. Like, I've never heard of, number one, like, I don't know much about fields and grass. I mean, it was grass. It was what, fake grass? It was not even turf. Like, what was it? You know what I mean? So, why are they watering it? Period. I don't know why. Does it have to grow in 4 days? They watered it heavily 4 days before. Okay. Then they were supposed to water it 4 days before, and I think the morning of the game they were supposed to water. I don't know. And they didn't dry it. They didn't. So literally they watered it while it was rolled up, and it sat there without getting dried, and then they just rolled it out on the field in Arizona, and then that was it. And then that's what it looked like when these guys got on the field. Reddick had a lot to say about it. I mean, these guys really don't complain about anything, but I gotta say, man, like, that was, as much as I can blame Gannon for this defense, we couldn't get a pass rush because literally you can watch every single snap. There are like three or more guys slipping every single play, every single down on defense. I mean, it was You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing that annoys me. Like, it was unfair for both sides, but for the Eagles, they just couldn't. You know what I mean? Then they're worrying about slipping, and they're not playing at 100% because they know they're going to slip all over the field. And obviously, when you're slipping like that, you can get injuries by that happening. That's another thing. Like, I'm surprised there weren't a lot of injuries because of how slippery it was too. So, I mean, I have to hear about a groundskeeper not dry, keeping the grass dry. They didn't water it. Like, I mean, they watered it and didn't dry it. Like, I'm like hearing this stupid crap about it. Like, I've never heard news like this on for a Super Bowl. Like, this is the only year I've ever heard about a field being slippery and seeing it on live television. How embarrassing it was. It was non-playable. It was absolutely non-playable. And I agree with Brandon Graham on that. Yeah, I think we could have took down Mahomes a lot of times in that game. So, like I said, Gannon's definitely a gripe when it comes to, getting beat on the same play call, the same, playing cover zero against the same, in the red zone against Patrick Mahomes and getting beat on the same play 2 times. And then, your special teams didn't do anything, didn't help out either. So this is something I'll always remember. And, this was just circulating the past couple weeks. And I kind of was like, you know what? I'm going to cover it because I think seeing this groundskeeper, George Toma, that's the groundskeeper for the grass that they put on the field and what they did and didn't do was the most ridiculous shit I have ever heard in my life when it comes to, like, the biggest problem in this game was Gannon's defense, but the second biggest problem, which we didn't have no control over, was how they took care of the field before it happened. So, you know what I mean? That's and I'm telling you right now, if the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl next year, they're going to make sure that, and I'm telling you right now, like, even players will probably write to the league that they got to make sure this field is, like, in 100% good condition. I felt like they were just set up to fail in this game. I'm not making this field the main reason, but if if your defensive line shouldn't even have been playing. They should have took them off the field. Literally. I mean, you should have just had your linebackers, your corners, and your safeties, and just no defensive line, because literally there was no reason for them to play in that game because they couldn't do anything. Defensive ends can't bend, and every time the Eagles, every time these DTs take a long stride with their legs, they're slipping, and they're falling on one knee, or they're falling to their side, which, like I said, can cause a lot of injuries. So I'm not trying to make a big deal about it because it's over, it's done, the Eagles lost, and I can't wait for this season. But yeah, it's that's the one thing that really annoyed me the most about the Super Bowl. So that's all I really have to say about it. Like I said, I'm not trying to reminisce about it too much, but I thought it was really important because it's just been circulating all over the place, and Brandon Graham kind of didn't hold back on anything. I don't even care about the Mahomes fake injury. It's not the least of my worries. The biggest concern I had in that game was the field conditions. I mean, they sucked. It was horrible. You know what I mean? So hopefully that doesn't happen again, because I'm going to feel bad for whatever team rolls in to a stadium, and that's what happens. I mean, a 94-year-old groundskeeper, I mean, seriously, and you know what I mean? Just ridiculous. I thought that's the only thing I'm really not over is the field conditions and how it was so unfair. But I have to give it to both sides, because both sides dealt with the same problem, to the point where every player on the Philadelphia Eagles literally had a big group of cleats in a pile on the sideline because they had to change their cleats, and it still didn't work. They had to get much sharper spikes in their cleats, and they had to change the bottom of their cleats or change their entire cleat in general. I mean, they didn't really show the Kansas City side, which was really weird about it. They never showed the Kansas City side of any of them changing their cleats. The Philadelphia Eagles had a pile of cleats, and they kept showing it almost the whole entire game, or at the moment where everybody was slipping so many times. So that's all I got to say about that. It is what it is. It's over with. You know what I mean? I get it. It's just, this is just a report. This is what Brandon Graham said. I'm just going over how I felt about the situation, and that's pretty much about it. So we went over Keely Ringo and his contract not being signed. Went over Nick's comments on, are the Eagles going to use Jalen Hurts a lot less in the running game? Are they not going to use his legs as much? Oh, they're going to. Oh, they're going to be building upon what they did last year. There is no doubt. Good running backs behind him or not, good wide wide receivers to throw to or not, it does not matter. He is going to do even more and put more of the heavy lifting on this in this offense this year. So there's no doubt about that. And obviously talking about Brandon Graham's quotes in the Super Bowl and all that good stuff. So I'd like to hear your comments on all that great stuff. If you lasted this long in this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well. It does help out the channel a lot. And Eagles training camp is getting here real soon, in a couple weeks, and very excited to go over all the depth and all the the back end depth to this roster. So it should be a lot of fun. You guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes, what up? Follow side. Peace out, guys. Peace.